Hey, what's going on? It's your boy Coach, and this is the ENLS series.
All right, this is a fun week. This is week 9, and so there's a number of things that we've talked about in the past, and if you've seen other systems out there that are like this, I'd love to know about it. Comment and tell me, what's similar, what's different, or why is this like something else? Because in my experience, there's a number of things that are very different and not at the microscopic level, but this is one of those weeks where we're definitely going to be pushing the envelope, and some of the reasons of why I call there's a lot of bullshit out there and something that I don't necessarily agree with. Now, when I first got into nutrition and health and fitness, one of the first things is I started adapting pretty much everything that was, fed to me, spoon-fed to me, we'll say, through, articles, magazines, things that were effective. But there wasn't always, let's say, the right agenda or the right intention in some of those messages. So I've learned over time to kind of question those things, because when I was new, I kind of didn't know. So I just adapted the first things that I was kind of, told. Now, I'm not saying they're bad, but one thing that's happened in this journey is I've learned to question things or challenge things that I assume to be true or truth. So that's what I need you to do in this. And that's one of the things that it's going to be enlightening this week, because there's a number of myths I've been through and things that I thought that were going to get me to the end or to get me to my goals, and they were actually ineffective. And they were quite the opposite of what I needed to do. And actually, one of those, you can look through this gigantic list and there's more. I just don't have, the room. But when you're trying to make change and there's something that you're doing, but you're not getting the results, or it's just not working out for you, then try the opposite. It's one of my claims. It's one of the things that make it trial and error, right? We're in this for the life journey, not necessarily the quick results. We're trying to figure out things over time. So to me, one of the things that's most important, in a deficit, is staying full. And that's not everybody's objective. I understand that. We're all different. I think for the most people, though, if you're full, you're generally going to not be hungry. And that's something not always the case, but for the most part. And the research may conflict, but overall, for me, they're very effective. And they could be controversial, and maybe they work for you, maybe they don't. But the first step is you got to try them out. And you have to understand what I'm saying when I'm putting each of these elements in there. One of the hardest ones that most people are going to probably maybe disagree with, because they could call it an eating disorder issue, but it's a binge. And I don't mean a binge like, we have binge eating disorder, which is characterized by its own, elements. This is specific to, let's suppose you're, get to a point like in plateaus, or where you are getting hungry, or let's say, there's something that you're missing in your diet. Maybe the macros are too low and fats or carbs or whatever. One thing I've found about binging that's very unique and can be effective, I'm not saying it is, it just can be sometimes, is that when you overeat something to the point of where you get kind of sick, you can make, an aversion. This week is one of those interesting ones. I'm actually really all I'm asking is to challenge your paradigm. Challenge what you think you know to be true by, changing something. A lot of people think that, hey, I got to eat chicken and rice and salmon and avocados and eggs and all of these nutrient-dense foods, and that's the only way to be healthy, and I highly disagree. As a matter of fact, if you go back a couple weeks, I wrote on a slide what I think health is. It's more than just nutrition. There's a mental wellness that goes with it, a spiritual wellness. So a lot of interesting things going on this week. Like I said, some things that are debatable, but for the most part, they're going to be things I'm using and things you'll see in the X-Form series, and also what I'm calling T-Form. I actually have a lot of work ahead of me, because I have 4 series to come out with, for this new year, because we all have different needs. We all have different points or stages we're at where we're trying to be healthier, but there's something preventing that, right? There's some people who are already at their goals and they're there. Maybe you want to be a little bit better though. Maybe there's something where you could take it up a notch or take it a step further. And that's exactly why there's these different, concepts to go into place to help you with that. There's H-form, so it's about how to change habits. How do we make new habits? That's a good question, right? Because once we get in a routine and on weeks, that's actually a good approach, is to start by changing one thing a week. And I actually have, a very short series that's condensed. It's on the habits I've been changing over the last 4 weeks before I even start my dieting process or my dieting, regimen, because they're going to hinder me. Okay, so the Q-form series is something I kind of made up. It's something very interesting and a little bit different, but it's kind of maybe a play on how people mostly diet, but really it isn't. It's a way to I call unlock potential. Because what happens is, as you learn about yourself and you start making this path and you build baselines and you start doing this over time, you're going to find that, hey, you know what, you can get very, say, in a specific place, but can you go further? That's always my question, is can I go a little bit further with this? Now, Q-Form is really designed around that, and it's specific in this case. It's going to be for my physique, is how lean can I get? You know, a lot of people have a goal to be lean, have this beach body, and one of the things I've found out, especially when getting very lean, is that it's not very sustainable for me. Now, what I'm going to be specifically doing is showing you some of the advanced nutrition strategies I use, say, in dieting, and how to, say, get my leanest look. And it's not going to last for very long. If I do believe that this has application even beyond just physique, like there's a mental things you can do in 30 days and spiritual things you can do in 30 days to continue to grow. So something that makes this, say, concept a little bit different than most is I'm a firm believer in staying full. And there are programs out there where you're going to stay full on nutrient-dense foods. But what you're going to see, especially in the X-Form and in the T-Form series, I actually have 2 that I'm releasing, we'll talk about in a minute, is that I'm going to make sure to stay way ahead of hunger, because hunger is something that is going to for sure not only take me away from my goals, but it's going to keep me, say, from making the changes I need to make and being, say, effective and purposeful with my nutrition. So another series that I'm going to be having is called the T-Form, and that's just transformation, what most people know it as. And that's where you say change your body composition, change a number of habits. You start on a path to a new lifestyle. Now, it doesn't, in my opinion, transforming doesn't necessarily guarantee you a new lifestyle, because people do what we call reverting. They go back to old habits. So then the question is, did they have new habits? And that's really what transformation is. It's to start the process. It's to learn how to make some of the health changes or nutrition changes or activities. It's in order to get to this, say, newer way of life. And it doesn't necessarily solidify you there. It takes time, but it's to start overall. So the X-Form series itself is going to be kind of in the moment. I'm going to be a little bit ahead of the curve in order to stay ahead of, say, the editing. It's body, mind, and soul. And really, that's, in my opinion, the best way to grow and to overall change lifestyle. Because when we say envision or permeate this new person, we really have to leave things behind, because in order to be a healthier version, we don't even want that to be a possibility to revert or to, say, to change to our old ways, we could call it. And obviously it's still going to be there in some senses, but as you get better at this, what'll end up happening over years of time, and it's happened to me, is that when you, say, try and go back to the old ways, it just doesn't even feel right anymore. It doesn't seem like it fits you anymore. That's what X-Form is going to get into, is, say, making those changes, using advantages, and, like, you know, how do you change, you know, your physique? What do you need to do mentally in order to, say, get started or to continue on? And spiritually, this is something that we all have our different beliefs. And in terms of religion, maybe that's one thing. And I do have my own faith, which is very important in this. But regardless of what yours is, there's some element there in terms of our character and our values and things that we believe in the world and truths. And those are the ways that, let's say, we can grow. Because if we're holding on to these things that aren't necessarily true, but then we find out something's different, then why not pursue something that's, say, different and maybe better for us in the long haul? I would say mentally and spiritually, I've grown more in the last 2 months than I have in, say, the last 5 years, just because I've had to strip away the advantages and do this apocalypse diet in order to change, say, do this X-Form series. It's been very difficult psychologically, but I've built mental fortitude. I've learned, you know, to make sure that my vision and my passion really is to help others and not seeking in this. And it really is. Otherwise, I would have already quit by now. I would have already, say, got my old physique or my new physique, you know, more in shape back, and stuck with that. But I knew that this was really important in order to finish and to make sure that, you know what, I can start something and have the disadvantages to start with. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, if you have a lot of weight to lose, that you're going to get to where I'm at. That's not really the point. The point of X-Form is to show you, hey, you can make change, and it happens slowly over time. The goals I have are going to take me 5 months. It's not going to take me a month or two to, say, lose 20 pounds of fat. It's going to take a lot longer than that. It's going to be very regimented for me, but for you, you're gonna be learning in the process of what you like and what you don't like. And I already know those things, but I'm gonna share with you ways to, say, psychologically or mentally overcome the challenges that often come in weight loss. And a lot of people are gonna struggle with for the first 30 days, no doubt.